Welcome back, everyone, to Papercraft Possibilities. This is Susan. If you're new, welcome. Today I'm going to continue documenting pictures in my European album, and we spent a little over 3 weeks there in 2017. Yes, I haven't done that book yet. This is a day we excuse me, let's try that again. This is a day we spent at Keukenhof, which is only open about 3 months out of the year. And today I'm going to focus some of the foods we had when we were there. Yeah, I'm not big on that fish. And they're kind of known for their waffles. There's a name, Strupen waffles, I believe. And that was just a big bucket of caramel. So today we're going to put 2 pages together to highlight those few things from our trip. And here I'm showing you the papers that we'll be using, and the plaid paper is from the Gnomes of Spring. So here we go. And we're back. Here I'm showing you Honey Butter cardstock from Close to My Heart. One side is dark and the other side is light. Today we're going to be using the light side, which is a little unusual for me. And I'm going to bring in this plaid paper and show you what I end up doing with it. I cut it at a diagonal, but it's a little tricky to do that. So I'm going to use this plaid, or excuse me, the yellow honey butter paper to show you how. Tongue-tied. So what I'm going to do here is flip it over to the dark side, because you probably always want to cut on the side that or pencil down the side that's not going to show. Here I'm using my tea ruler from Close to My Heart, which I believe is still available. It's linked down below if it is. I love this thing. And I'm using a very inexpensive tea ruler just to complete the diagonal in a straight line going across. So just a very light pencil, and then I'm going to take away that ruler from Close to My Heart, that tea ruler, and finish off that line with the inexpensive, not very accurate tea roller there. And then I come in and just very slowly cut across that line. But I'm just demonstrating that because I'm actually have done that on the plaid paper. So turning it back over to the light side, I'm going to bring back in that plaid paper here in a minute, and we're going to secure that down and get that in place. And it's pretty important that it be accurate because we're going to do the same thing on the opposite, the second page. So here we are, just securing that down, making sure it's right in the corners. And then I'm going to come in and start soft fitting everything. And I like to do this just to make sure that, I make a sketch before I go in and I do these pages, but I want to make sure that they all fit before I start gluing things down. I have gone ahead and I've matted all of these pictures with white, and I actually use the photo placeholders that come with the workshops with Close to My Heart. And you'll see here I kind of changed my mind at this point. It's not set up how I want it to be. So I bring those 4x6s over, and I think I'm happy with that. The picture on the top right of me holding my hands up, is I'm looking down at my husband, or he's looking down on me. He's on top of that windmill over to the left. I show you a scalloped piece of paper that I actually did with my Cricut, and I was showing you the light side and the dark side of that paper. And unfortunately, I was going to use the light side, and I made the mistake of, you'll notice later, using the dark side, but it all works out. Here I've taken the word Holland with my Cricut, and I've loaded it up 3 times, so it's stacked up to give it some dimension. Just trying to kind of make sure it's kind of level, so I see how much room I have over to the left to dry fit some items over there. I just want to make sure it all all fits on the page. And it looks like we're doing okay. I wanted the scalloped paper or piece that I cut there with the Cricut to look like a little bit of a shelf, so the word Holland wasn't like floating out in left field there. Here I've cut a windmill, and I'm trying to line it up there, the blades of the windmill, if that's what you call them. I'm lining it up with the plaid material there, the plaid paper. I love that plaid. Here I tried to make some flower cutouts, and I did some fussy cutting, which I must admit I'm not very good at. And I wanted to make like a little window box. So I used this stamp here, which was a stamp of the month. I want to say in September, July, something like that. It's no longer available. But I did some cutting and made that window box. And that little box, if you will, that I tried to make a box was from a die cut that I think I'm going to pull out here in a few minutes. And I'll tell you more about it when it comes back on the screen. And I'm using, I did a couple inks to ink up those flowers in the flower pot. Here I have one of my Copics, I think it's Y11, I'll list it down below. And then I use the honey butter ink again to ink that up. And I'm going to put a bunch of dimensional dots on that when I add it to the windmill a little later. These flowers right here are from one of the die cut sets that had just come out. I'll list it below. So the flowers are in the top left there. I use the one where I'm pointing to, my finger was just on the right, the smaller floral. And then you'll notice the squares in the bottom right hand corner. That's what I kind of cut up and used for that flower box. So I got a lot of use out of that one die set with just this one page. Here's that one tab, which I'm going to use for the date, and that came off of that same die set. And these three large flowers, I ink up a little bit later in a few more minutes on the video, and I'll show you how that's done. Here I'm showing you what the stamp looks like on that 1B set, and then I had to fussy cut that out. And these are the scissors I love for fussy cutting. Here I'm going back to the two inks that I use. This is Limeade, and I'm showing you the inker that I use. And this is something that I'd never done before, but the circumference of that sponge was just perfect for the inside of that flower. So I just set it down very lightly and just twisted it, and it turned out perfect, just like I wanted. I didn't want it to be too perfect, you know, just, how can I say it? I wanted it round, but I didn't, if it went over a little, I didn't care about, but the size was perfect. And then I'm coming in on the sides with honey butter. And I'm mainly just inking up the sides of this flower. I really wanted the white to show because the bottom layer, if you remember, of my page is honey butter. Here I got something red on this flower, and I decide, okay, I'm going to go ahead and use it, and I'll just tuck it under something, and you'll never know. So that's what I'm hemming and hawing about right there. In the end, it works out beautifully. You know, there's no reason to stress over something so small like that. Although I did at the moment. So we finished inking these all up. And I think I determined here in a minute or two that it all works out. By the way, there's a huge cardstock sale going on right now. And because the company's getting ready to close, people are buying it up like crazy. So if you're interested, the link will be down below. Their cardstock. I'm doing a lot of research to find something that's comparable, and it's tough. So get your hands on some while you can. So here I did the little tiny flower, and that's going to go on the front of my windmill. And here I'm kind of looking at my windmill and going, kind of need something. So I bring in the Limeade, and I'm going to just lightly ink up the side so it'll stand out a little from the yellow background and from the plaid. I don't put much on, but enough to make it stand out. You'll see it better in the pictures of still shots at the end of the video. And I just love that a Cricut will cut out this kind of detail. I've just enjoyed learning more about my Cricut, and I've got a lot more to learn. but it just is great to be able to use this with my scrapbook pages. So I'm real happy with it. And I found this windmill on the Cricut design space. And again, there's so many options in there. My goodness, you could type in just about anything and find a die cut for it. So when I'm done here, we'll see that, you know, the rest of the page, the dry fitting comes along just fine. So we'll move on to the second page. And I'll show you what we're going to do with that plaid paper on this second page. Here I've just got my little my little pointer out, getting out a few of the things that are still stuck in those holes from the die cutting from the Cricut. Love it. I'd love to know if any of you have ever been to Keukenhof. It's, like I said, it's only open 3 months out of the year because it's during tulip growing season over there. And it's going to sound silly, but I would go, because I love gardening, but I would go back in a heartbeat just to go there and then spend more time looking through Amsterdam area, Holland. We just loved that area. Both my children have also been there and they've loved it. So here I'm gluing down the Holland. And this is where I made my mistake of not turning it over and using the lighter side of that Limeade cardstock. Again, it all works out. You'll see in the next page I had to do a little bit of maneuvering, but it all worked out. So now it's time to just start putting all of the pieces together. And I try and just softly set them on the page a lot of times. So in case you need to move these around, a lot of the tapes are forgiving. If you get in there right after you've put them down so you can, maneuver them a little. And then I use, the liquid glue instead of the tape, I should say. And that helps me to be able to move things around when I need to. It gives you a little bit of wiggle room, as they call it in the industry. Here I'm going to lay these 2 flowers flat, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to put some 3D dots, you'll see, on this big flower, and it brings it kind of up to the level that the Holland word is when I've put those that cardstock 3 deep on that. It all ends up working out beautifully. You'll see I put that flower over on the windmill there. And here we go. Everything's getting glued down. I brought in my T-ruler, and I love this thing just to make sure things are on there straight. I'm not always good at getting things straight, so it's nice to have that tool there to help me. And here we go. And again, I have the liquid glue down there just to make sure things are nice and straight. And I think that's where we end up going. Yep, turns out perfect. And it's hard on the Holland, the script that I used in Cricut, because it has its ups and downs to really determine if it's straight or not. And so I always use the image or the paper where you cut that out to see how it's supposed to line up. Here I'm gluing down some of the windmill blades just to make sure that they don't get caught on anything when I bring in the page cover for this. And I think that does it for that page for right now. I come back to it in a minute or two. We're almost done with this page. We're tacking down that flower, and I'm realizing I forgot one thing. So I'm going to bring back in that tab. And I use a company online called Labels Online, and this is where I get my paper. I'm just showing you that this was in that die cut set that just came out. I think it might be sold out, but they're going to bring some more in stock. But the Labels Online, I print all my journaling on most of the time. And I print it on some matte clear paper, and that way you can barely see it once it's put into or put onto the page. Here I realize that it's crooked, so I'm going to pull it back off here. And I bring in a new sheet where I've typed out 2017 on some paper because I did like 5 or 10 of these, I guess, the 2017, because I realized I'm going to be making mini pages. And I just want to make sure if the pages ever get separated that I have the year on them. So no one ever has to be concerned as to what year it was. So that does it. Oh, I guess not. Yeah, there we go. It does do it. Back at the end, I come back and put an enamel dot on that. Here is going to be the right-hand page. And I'm going to I'm making sure that I'm on the light colored side. And I bring in the rest of that, the other half of the plaid paper, and I'll put that up going the other direction. So when you're looking at the 2 pages at the end, you'll see that the triangles kind of bring your eye back down to the center, which is what I'm demonstrating here. And again, lining it up to make sure it lines up really well. And we're going to glue that down, or actually I'm using my tape on that. And bringing back in those pictures. My husband having one of their great waffles. Waffles with caramel. Not bad. There's that bucket of caramel again. And a close-up of my husband eating that. Or eating that is the packaging that came with it. I thought that was great. And here's the fish drying. Couldn't believe, different nationalities, different countries of how they're eating this fish just piled up. It's called herring, I guess. Piled up with lots of onions. Not my thing, but people were loving it there. So to each his own, right? And I made this whole page about just the food there that, is a little bit different from us in the US. So again, I've cut out food of Kuchenhof. I've cut that out, the base of it. I think it was the base 3 times. It was either the base or the words. Then I went into Cricut Design Space and found some utensils. And here's where I realized that I have cut, or on the other side, the little scallop side, I put it in and I used the wrong side. I used the darker side. So at least I caught it. So not that it makes that much of a difference, but I would have liked to have had the knife facing the other way, which is the proper way of setting the table, but no big deal. Who else is gonna, who cares, right? So I have cut the utensils out, which turned out great. I think it tells you right when you look at this page what it's all about. And I'm just again soft dry fitting the pieces on this page just to make sure I still have space. Again, I've lined all of these pictures with white matte, which are the picture holders that come with the workshops. I hold on to them when I know I don't need them on a particular page. I just kind of stockpile them. Then I did some die cutting, and actually it wasn't die cutting. I fussy cut these out of a stamp set I'm going to show you here. And I wish I could tell you where I got the stamp set. I do not remember. I've had it forever. And here I'm pointing to the items that I did use in this stamp set. So I did hand color these, and I colored these with some of the tri-blend markers, which are still available on the site, I believe. So I'm going to link those down below for you. And here we've got, the blue is actually, the vintage blue is what I use for a gray. It turns out more gray than anything. And then I use the green in that, I think it's a red-brown. Again, I'll list those below. So I'm trying to make sure they're all going to fit. Hey, while I'm kind of holding here, I wanted to thank you all for helping me reach to a point where my channel has just recently become monetized, which means I get a very small, small but appreciated dollar amount for my videos that come up, which helps in the material and the things I need to buy to make a video, the lights, the cameras, the microphones. Those things all help when I'm trying to put a video out. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. My husband and I both appreciate that, as we're senior citizens, so it helps out a lot. I made another tag. This one I made in the Limeade material. So now we're just finalizing everything here. I think I've got everything glued down at this point with the exception of that chef's hat. And we're getting the glue on that. And I think that'll probably be the finishing touch on this. So I think I'm going to bring back in, I think I'm going to pull these off here in a minute and show you what they look like together so you can see the true effect of that triangle, how it comes together and brings your eye towards the center of the page. But first, I decided that I wanted an enamel dot in the middle of that flower. And I wish I could tell you again where these enamel dots came from, but I just kind of stockpile those as I get them if I don't use them on a page. From now on, I will try and keep the name of the manufacturers and the collection they come from handy for all of you. Just trying to level those up. Make sure it's in the center. And I think that works well, and it seems like it's going to stick really well. A lot of times I add some liquid glue on there just to make sure, but it comes together. And here I'm adding that one last touch on this side, which is where I've put the year again on that tab, and I'm going to stick it under that photo on the top right. And I think we're coming to kind of the conclusion of our time at Keukenhof here. So I think I have another 1 or 2 pages for Keukenhof, and then we're going to be moving on to the other things that we did in Europe. This will be a giant album, if not 2 albums, but it was a once-in-a-lifetime trip. My husband now is not able to travel like we did, so very important memories for the 2 of us together. So there's the right-hand side. And the left-hand side. And there you go. So again, I hope that you will like, subscribe, and I appreciate you joining us. And remember, if you subscribe and put a comment down below, I'll enter you in our monthly contest for a free stamp and die cut. So thanks for joining me. It means a great deal. And until next time, I'll leave you here with some pictures, some looks around the sheets, and we'll see you soon.